Welcome to another grammar lesson. Today we are talking about the zero conditional and the first conditional. This is part one of a new series I'm starting here about the conditionals in English. Let's get started. Hey everybody, how's it going? Thiago here and welcome to another episode of the podcast. In case you're new here, I've created this podcast and YouTube channel to help intermediate and advanced learners of English communicate with more confidence, more accuracy, more clarity, and more awareness. If this sounds like something you want for yourself and your English, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube and follow the show if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I really appreciate it. Registrations for my conversation club are officially open. Classes begin next month in August 2024 and they run until November 2024. If you are available every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. BRT for live classes, for live conversation classes, and if you are already at an intermediate level of English, I'm going to leave the link for you to learn more about the Conversation Club, how it works, how you can join here in the description of the video as a pinned comment below, and also in the show notes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for you to check it out. Also, don't forget to learn more about my pronunciation course, which is still on pre-sale. This is a recorded course designed to teach you the main sounds of the English language and the main connected speech patterns that native speakers use in movies, series, podcasts, and also in real life to speak a little bit faster. So if you want to learn more about that, the links are also here in the description of the video, pinned comment, and in the show notes. All right, so let's get started here with our lesson on conditionals. Check it out. Both zero and first conditional sentences express cause and effect, or the relationship between conditions and results, but they apply to different types of situations. So in terms of meaning, I would say that the zero conditional and the first conditional are very similar. They are more similar to each other than the other conditionals, the second and the third and the mixed. So let's talk about zero conditional first. We use zero conditional sentences to express general truths, scientific facts, or situations that always happen if a certain condition is met. These are facts or events that are widely accepted as true and unchanging. So whenever you want to talk about general truths, scientific facts, things that are always true, they are facts, you can use zero conditional. As far as the structure goes, we have usually an if clause or an if sentence plus simple present, and the second clause or the second part of the sentence is also in the simple present. For example, if you heat up water at 100 degrees Celsius, it boils. That's a fact of life. That's a scientific fact. It's a general truth, okay? So if you heat up, that's present simple, the water at 100 degrees Celsius, again, simple present, it boils, okay? Another example, if you leave your hand in the fire for 5 minutes, you severely burn your hand. You see, I have no doubt about that. If you leave your hand in the fire for 5 minutes, you severely burn your hand. I mean, if you can make it that far, right? But you see, for general truths of life, general facts, we use zero conditional, all right? But the important thing about conditionals is that not necessarily do you have to use the if clause all the time or the if word, okay? Instead of if, you can use other words as well. Let me give you some examples. You can use unless, for example, instead of if. Check it out. Unless you water plants, they die. That's the condition. The plants die unless you water them, okay? Another one is as soon as. As soon as can also replace if. As soon as the sun sets, it gets dark. You see, another fact of life. Keep in mind that you can also reverse the order here if you want to, okay? You can say it gets dark as soon as the sun sets, okay? But here's the trick. If you start the conditional sentence with if, unless, as soon as, then you need a comma to separate the two clauses. So unless you water plants, comma, they die. Or going back to the water example, if you heat up water at 100 degrees, it boils. So if you heat up water at 100 degrees, comma, it boils. But you can also reverse the order and you can say the water boils if you heat it up at 100 degrees. In that case, there's no comma. I'm just inverting the order or reversing the order of information here. The water boils if you heat it up at 100 degrees. Or here, plants die unless you water them. No comma in this case. You can also use the word whenever instead of if. Whenever you mix red and yellow, comma, you get orange. Okay? Whenever is like it doesn't matter when, whenever. All right? Reversing the order, you get orange whenever you mix red and yellow. In that case, no comma. Got it? You can also use when instead of if. Going back to the water example, but now the opposite phenomenon, let's say, water freezes when the temperature drops below 0 degrees Celsius. So you can say water freezes if the temperature drops below 0, or water freezes when the temperature drops below 0. Okay? Ice melts when you heat it. I'm using when here. Or you can also use, again, as soon as. Ice melts as soon as you heat it. As soon as communicates this idea of right at that time, right at that moment. So right at that moment you heat water, it melts. Got it? As soon as. So just to recap, we use the zero conditional to talk about general truths, facts of life, even scientific facts. The structure is if, simple present again. And remember that the order of the clauses is irrelevant. Just be careful with the comma, all right? When to place it. Aside from the word if, you can also use the words unless, as soon as, whenever, and when to communicate the condition. All right? Now talking about the first conditional, we use the first conditional to talk about possibilities or likely situations in the future and their consequences. These are situations that are real and could potentially happen. I also like to call it the cause and effect type of meaning here, yeah? Whenever there is a cause, there is an effect or consequence to that cause and vice versa, okay? The structure here for the first conditional is if, simple present, just like zero conditional, but the second part, we say it in the future. Usually will or won't, but you can also use going to, okay? Remember that zero conditional is simple present. First conditional is simple present, future. Here's an example. If you don't sleep well, you will be tired the next day. That's the idea of cause and consequence, action, reaction. If you don't sleep well, that's simple present. Now the future sentence, you will be tired the next day. So you see, I'm talking about cause and consequence. I'm talking about a prediction also in the future, a prediction that I feel quite certain about. If you don't sleep well, you will be tired the next day, okay? You can also use first conditional to threaten someone, to make a threat. Imagine a parent threatening the kid, like, if you don't do your homework, you won't play video games for the rest of the week. You see? Or if you don't go to school, you won't go on that fun trip you want to go. All right? So you can also use it in that sense to make a threat. Okay? Cause and consequence, predictions in the future, threats. Remember that instead of if, you can also use the words unless, as long as, provided that, when, instead of if. Okay? So let me give you some more examples here. Unless it rains, we will go to the beach. Unless it rains, we will go to the beach. Or reversing the order, we will go to the beach unless it rains. No comma here. As long as you study, you will pass the exam. That's the condition, as long as. If you do this, you will pass. As long as you do this, you will pass. Okay? Remember that as soon as is right at the moment, right? As soon as this happens, the other thing happens. As long as is the condition. On the condition that you do this, that will happen. So as long as you study, you will pass the exam. Let's reverse. You will pass the exam as long as you study. Okay? I will be happy when I get a promotion. I'm using when here. Or I can also use if. I will be happy if I get a promotion. Okay? This is a good one, provided that. Provided that you hurry, you will not miss the bus. Provided that is similar to on the condition that. Okay? Provided that you hurry, or even as long as you hurry, similar meaning there, you will not miss the bus. Let's reverse the order again. You will not miss the bus provided that you hurry. Okay? She will call you as soon as she has time. Or as soon as she has time, she will call you. Okay? Now, I told you at the beginning of the video today that both zero conditional and first conditional are quite similar in meaning, depending on the situation there. One of the main differences is the level of certainty that you want to communicate. Okay? Do you remember the fire example? If you leave your hand in the fire for 5 minutes, you severely burn your hand. I feel quite sure about this, quite certain, that if you leave your hand in the fire for 5 minutes straight, you severely burn your hand. So I'm using zero conditional here. Now I can also say, if you leave your hand in the fire for 1 minute, you will severely burn your hand. I still feel quite sure about what I'm saying, but the zero conditional, present, sounds more sure, okay? Here, I'm kind of making a prediction about the future. I'm expressing to you the cause and consequence of doing this. If you leave your hand in the fire for 1 minute, you will severely burn your hand. I am sure about that, but if I use zero conditional, I sound more certain, even more certain. If you leave your hand in the fire for 5 minutes straight, yeah, you burn your hand severely. Okay? Now, what's interesting about the first conditional is that you can also use the modals, like may and might. Now, you are not so sure or as sure as will. For example, if you leave your hand in the fire for 10 seconds, you might burn your hand severely. But now I'm not so sure because, 10 seconds is relatively a very short amount of time. I mean, I guess you will burn your hand, but maybe not severely. Got it? So you can also use may and might instead of will in the first conditional, but then you sound less certain than if you used will. Okay? So just to recap here, first conditional is used to talk about cause and consequence, action, reaction, future predictions, and also when you want to sound sure or certain that something will happen. Okay? If you want to sound less sure or less certain that something will happen, you can say that something may happen or something might happen if something else happens. Okay? And comparing it with zero conditional we use for scientific facts, general truths, but also when we want to sound even more certain than will, than the first conditional there. If you do this, that happens. I'm sure. I hope you enjoyed this video and this mini lesson on zero conditional and first conditional. And don't forget to check out my conversation club if you are available at 7:30 p.m. BRT every Tuesday, and if you are already at an intermediate level of English. And also check out my pronunciation course. All the links are here in the description of the video, in the pinned comment, and in the show notes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm Thiago, I'm signing off. Thank you very much, and I'll be talking to you very soon in the upcoming video. Bye-bye.